Okay, so if you watched the last part of this video of this series, I was basically showing you ways that owning a car does equal freedom because I was watching this show called Adam Ruins Everything, and like I said in the last part, I disagree completely with that specific episode when they were saying what basically the name of the episode was Adam Ruins Cars. Specifically, what I disagree with was owning it was when they said owning a car doesn't necessarily mean being free. Now, let me show you another reason why owning a car actually does equal freedom. Specifically, specifically when you own a car, you can basically go anywhere you want, provided you can afford the fuel it would take to get there. But in a bus, the buses don't just run in any specific location. Sometimes the place you want to go isn't even within walking distance of a bus or train station. But with a car, you can just drive to the parking lot of that location, and it's pretty much no big deal at all. For example, let's say I wanted to go to the Montauk Point Lighthouse, which is actually a real place that I want to go to. Let me look at that. Let me look for that on the map. I actually know exactly where it's located. It's right on the easternmost tip of the Long Island in the state of New York. So, let's say I wanted to go to this lighthouse. Let's look for directions to it. Okay, it's a 200-mile car drive. I've driven a lot further than that before, so it's not too much for me. But to be honest, I really don't like driving in the New York area. So basically, if I wanted to go to the lighthouse, if I wanted to go to the lighthouse right now, I could just get in my car and drive. This would probably be a bad time to drive, though. Look at all these accidents and everything. But if I wanted to, I could simply just get in my car and drive there. But let's see what happens when we look up public transportation options. Nope, there aren't any. So basically, if I wanted to go to this lighthouse today and I didn't have a car, I wouldn't be able to because there is no bus that runs specifically from this city all the way to Long Island. So there's just no way to get there. There is a train station in Long Island that's operated by the Long Island Railroad, but it's way too far from the lighthouse. It's like all the way it's 5 miles away from the lighthouse, so it's not necessarily within walking distance. So the train isn't really the option in this situation either. Yeah, so it says, sorry, your search appears to be outside our current coverage area for transit. And the only option it has is get driving directions. So yeah, if I wanted to go to this lighthouse today, I can because I have a car. But if I didn't, there'd just be no way to get there. I'd be going nowhere fast. Unless I wanted to actually walk the 200 miles to that lighthouse, but clearly that's not going to happen. Another example of how when you don't have a car, you're not free to just go anywhere you want. Another place that I plan on going to in the future. It's located on this tip of the state of New Jersey. The Sandy Hook Lighthouse. So if I look for directions to this lighthouse, it's like the Montauk Point Lighthouse. It's as simple as just getting in your car and driving there. Still, I don't think I'd want to drive through all that. In fact, I hate driving in New Jersey. But yeah, it's as simple as that. However, when I switch to the public transit option, sorry, your search appears to be outside our current coverage area of transit. So yeah, you can't take the bus to this lighthouse because there is no bus stop anywhere near it. Now, the nearest bus stop I was able to find is like over here somewhere, but that's like 5 miles away from the lighthouse, and no one's no, and trust me, 5 miles is just too much for me. So yeah, owning a car gives you the freedom to go anywhere you want, anytime you want. Not owning a car, you don't have that kind of freedom because you can only go where the buses run, and sometimes they just don't run to the area you want to or need to go. Okay, here's an example of another place I would eventually want to go by car, the Ocracoke Lighthouse, located on Ocracoke Island off the coast of North Carolina. Now, to get here, all you need is a car and a car ferry. But if you don't have a car, let's see what happens when we switch to public transportation mode. Transit not available. It won't even let me click on it this time. It just says it's completely unavailable. So yeah, you cannot depend on public transportation to get you everywhere, because if you wanted to go to this lighthouse, you need a car. And you're going to need to drive that car to this car ferry, and then drive the car the rest of the way to get to the lighthouse. But, you know, basically the point I'm trying to make is you're not getting to this lighthouse unless you have a car. So yeah, with a car, you have the freedom to go to this lighthouse if you wanted to. But if you don't have one and you depend on public transportation, it's just not an option. So basically, if you don't have a car, forget about going to this lighthouse and pretty much a bunch of others. There are some lighthouses you can access using public transportation, like for example the Cape May Lighthouse in New Jersey, or the Absecon Lighthouse in Atlantic City, or the Ponce de Leon Inlet Lighthouse in Florida. But a lot of lighthouses are not accessible from public transportation because they're pretty much located in the middle of nowhere, very far away from population. So like, it's not likely you would find a bus or a train that can take you there. There's another reason why I think owning a car is better than relying on public transportation, and that is you get more respect if you own a car. Let me tell you what I mean. Sometimes when I was waiting for a bus at a bus stop, there were people that would either drive up to the bus stop and basically just mock the people who don't have a car and have to wait for a bus to get to their destination, or they would. Or there would even be, and there are also lots of children that live in this city that tend to do that. And when they see someone walking off the bus, they tend to laugh at you and basically make fun of you because you can't get to where you're going by car. So yeah, that's actually a real problem in this area. People who have to depend on the bus are generally ridiculed. Like, I remember a time when I was waiting for a bus somewhere in this area. Well, not there. It was somewhere down this street. I think it was over here somewhere. Anyway, somehow, like I said in the previous video, somehow the driver did not see me and drove right past the stop. So of course I'm running for the bus, trying to catch it at a red light or something, hopefully. And of course there are people laughing at me, saying, "Hey, look at that person running for the bus," and stuff like that. So yeah, that is a thing that is likely to happen to you if you don't have a car. Another reason why I say owning a car gives you more respect is this. So this is actually a true story. I was looking for a job, and I actually got a call from a job that I had filled an application for, and the guy who called me basically asked me, "Do you have a reliable transportation to get to and from work?" And I checked, and there just happened to be a bus stop within walking distance of this location. So I said, "Yeah, I would be using the bus." Then the guy responded by saying, "Okay, let me see if I have any jobs for you that are located near a bus stop." Then he hung up and never called back. So yeah, it seems as though relying on a bus for public transportation can even lead to job discrimination. People will sometimes deny you a job just because you have to rely on the bus. Also, there's another issue with the bus. They have there's limited service in this area. For example, like, let me give you an example. Like, during Christmas time, I was working at a warehouse. We were all working overtime to get packages delivered to the customer on time for Christmas, because a lot of stuff we sold at that warehouse were toys and jewelry and clothes. So yeah, we had to work overtime, and they gave us a message on the bulletin board telling us that we were going to have to work basically 12-hour shifts for the rest of the week in order to get the packages delivered on time, because some people were showing up late or not showing up at all, and it was basically putting everyone behind schedule. But I couldn't work a 12-hour shift because that would require me to work past the time the last bus would be departing. So I wouldn't. So it just wasn't something I was able to do at the time because I didn't have a car. If I had a car, clearly it wouldn't have been an issue. A worst case scenario, I just had to work an extra hour late, and it wouldn't really be a problem to me, especially since they would pay me more, and I'd be okay with that. But I couldn't do that because the last bus would have departed a half hour before it would be time for me to leave. So I had to tell them, unfortunately, I can't work an extra hour per day. And I couldn't show up an extra hour early either because that would require me to be there a half hour before the first bus would arrive there. So that's another issue with riding the bus. You're not flexible with the hours you're able to work. You can only work during the time the buses are operating. So if the company says, "Hey, can you work an extra hour or two or three?" You can't accept because the bus would have left before you could finish your work, and there'd be no way for you to get home. Now, another reason owning a car equals freedom is climate control. You see, in a car, we have these amazing inventions that allow us to control the temperature as we're driving the vehicle. But buses do not have that. In fact, apparently, even the bus drivers can't control the temperature of the vehicle. They can only control whether the vents are on or off. There's only an on or off switch. And the company predetermines whether hot air or cold air comes out of the vents based on the season and not the actual temperature. And that's a huge problem. For example, okay, it was summertime, and here, where I live in the summertime, we get a lot of rain sometimes. So it was raining really, really hard, probably like 10 times as hard as in this picture. And unlike this picture, there was no shelter at the bus stop I was waiting at. And so I'm waiting in very rough rain for a bus to get there. And it's really cold because despite being the middle of July, it was only 40 degrees out because it gets really cold when it rains sometimes in this area. So yeah, I'm cold and I'm shivering and wet, and the bus gets to the stop, and I'm thinking, yay, shelter! But it's cold on the bus because, being the summertime, they have the air conditioner on. In fact, one thing I really hate about riding the bus in the summertime, they always have the air conditioner on. It doesn't matter how cold it is outside or even how cold it is on the bus, they never turn it off. They're not satisfied until the inside of the bus is as cold as the inside of a freezer used for keeping meat fresh. It's so cold in the bus sometimes that the windows fog up. It's so cold that sometimes I feel like I need to wear a winter jacket just to avoid catching pneumonia by the time I reach my destination. And when you ask the drivers to turn the air conditioner off, they tell you they have no control over it, even though it apparently has an on or off switch. So why don't they just turn it off? I mean, they can't possibly think that temperature is okay. Like, even when I'm driving, I mean, they say you get hotter when you drive, but even when I'm driving, I never get so hot that I need it to feel like the inside of a freezer to feel comfortable. I think people in this area are just obsessed with cold air for some reason. I don't see why. I hate cold air. So the point I'm trying to make is if not catching pneumonia by the time you reach your destination is something something that's ideal for you, then you should have a vehicle that's equipped with one of these things that can actually control the temperature. Because sometimes in the summertime it gets really cold when it rains, and and sometimes it gets cold enough for me to have the heat on when driving the car. But in this same situation, the buses would have the air conditioner on. So yeah, that's not very ideal for me.